Hi everybody, this is my good friend Bina. She's one of our laying hens, and today we're going to talk about how to care for your chickens in the winter. Hi everybody, it's Kim from Patriot Garden. I'm sitting out here in the nice toasty greenhouse with my lady friends, giving them a little bit of warm scratching through the dirt time. And we're going to talk today about how to care for your chickens in the winter. There's three things to consider. First of all, how do they handle the weather if you live in a zone where winter can be below freezing for many of the nights and a lot of the days. Also, what happens to their laying routine in the winter when it gets cold and the days get shorter, and what are some special considerations and emergency medicines to have on hand should the winter be a little tough for you girls. I get asked a lot, do chickens get cold in the winter? I actually think they have a harder time in the very hot summers that we can sometimes get here in Connecticut. They seem to do very well in the winter. There are a few things that I know they don't enjoy. They do not enjoy walking on snow. And of course, I pamper them with putting fresh hay down so that their feet don't get cold. But I think all in all, they really do well in the winter without supplemental heat. There are a few considerations though, especially when they're spending so much time in the coop. It is so important to keep the coop dry, clean, and draft free. Those are the keys to keeping your chickens healthy in the winter. A lot of people use what's called a deep litter method during the winter time, but they use very absorbent materials like pine shavings or wood shavings. Those shavings can absorb a lot of their waste, and as you pile up the pine shavings just over their waste, it gets broken down and can be used as compost in your garden. I use hay in the winter, and because that's readily available and cheap for me. Now, hay is not as absorbent, so I have to do a lot of cleaning out of the coop and making sure that their waste does not stay around, especially in places where they lay eggs or in places where they might cuddle up to go to sleep. I want to make sure that there's no waste in there to create that ammonia buildup that happens when the coop is so closed up in the winter. One thing I use to avoid that ammonia buildup is a product called Sweet PDZ. Sweet PDZ is a granular material that you can throw. It's almost like a very fine kitty litter, and you throw it underneath your bedding. And in the summertime and in the wintertime, it absorbs the ammonia smell from their waste and keeps the coop smelling pretty fresh. I line the windows with plastic just to keep out the blowing snow and the cutting wind. But I don't want their coop to be so airtight that there's no flow of air. So I do have some places where there can be a little bit of ventilation. A cold draft, however, will be not beneficial to them in very many ways, and we're going to talk about that. This is Doc. She's one of our laying hens, one of our bigger laying hens. And I just wanted to point out what I was talking about. It's very important to keep their wattles. Those are those pieces of skin, the skin flaps coming down here, and their combs, which are on top of their head, from getting frostbitten in the winter. And a good way to do that, besides keeping their coop dry and free of moisture and no cold drafts, is to coat their wattles and their combs occasionally with Vaseline or bag balm. Keeping water inside the coop with all their body heat cooped up, no pun intended, for the winter will increase the moisture and increase the possibility that on their wattles and combs they'll develop frostbite. So I keep their electric water bowl. I have a line coming out of my house to keep fresh water from freezing in the winter, but I keep the water in their run and I put hay on the snow so that they can walk out to it without their feet getting damaged from the cold. I would never leave their water for too long in the coop. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't put their water in their coop in the middle of a blizzard when I'm sure that they're not going to come out and get water. And drinking water is essential to their good health. So, but I make sure that it's out at night and that I don't leave it in there for long periods of time. Another question people ask is, do chickens lay during the winter? Yes, they do lay during the winter. The amount and the frequency will depend on a number of factors. The first factor is the breed. I have a breed called Red Star, which is a cross between a Rhode Island Red and a Buff Orpington, and they are a very hardy, winter hardy breed. So I get out of the 4 hens 2 to 3 eggs a day, even through the winter. Another factor in how chickens' laying habits continue during the winter is their diet. I add a couple of things to their diet in the winter to keep their body heat up, and that is whole corn, not cracked corn, whole corn. I do not feed them whole corn in the summer. They don't need that kind of calorie burning heat that the whole corn gives them. And another thing that I give them is red pepper flakes so that they can build up that body heat necessary to produce an egg. But don't worry, chickens do not have receptors for the heat in hot peppers. Cold weather and the short days will naturally decrease their egg production. And depending on what you are producing eggs for, you may want to alleviate that situation. If you are selling eggs, then you'll want that production to stay up during the winter. If you have a large family, you may want that egg production to stay up. So people do use supplemental heat and supplemental light in order to mimic the longer, warmer days of the summer so that their chickens will produce eggs regularly. I don't really do either of those because I really believe that if their bodies need to take a break during the winter, and that's a natural occurrence, that I'm going to keep that going. Remember, chickens don't lay eggs either if they don't feel safe. I typically do not let my chickens free range here in suburbia until after 3 o'clock. The predators, the flying predators, have eaten for the day, and my biggest worry is a loose dog in my neighborhood getting at the chickens. In the summer, there's plenty of places for them to hide. In winter, there's not so many places for them to hide. A good thing to do is to save your Christmas trees. I put my Christmas trees in the woods very close to my property line so that if they had to run away from a dog or another predator, they could sneak into the branches. Now, a good consideration for chickens all year round, but especially in the winter, is maintaining a stock of emergency medicines. My go-to is Vet RX. It's in a little yellow box. I buy it at Tractor Supply. Vet RX is almost like essential oils for chickens. If they develop a cold or a respiratory thing, which you will notice right away, just a little bit on their beaks is almost like having Vicks Vapor Rub for us. It just opens up their breathing passages and helps them to stay healthy. It's always important to keep things that you would keep for a human. Bacitracin in case they cut themselves or develop an infection. Epsom salts are always good to have around in case you need to soak an injured foot. And my last emergency suggestion is if you have to bring a chicken in for any length of time to heal a sore foot, to soak them, to heal a bird that's been attacked by predators, the longer you leave them inside, the more acclimated to those warmer temperatures they're going to be. And you're either going to have to keep them indoors or slowly acclimate them on bright, sunny, warmer days back into the coop. That can't be an overnight process. Their bodies will need time to adjust to that. All in all, with a few modifications to your routine and some additional considerations, keeping your chickens in winter is really easy. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and happy gardening, everybody.